In 1998, our family lived in Ethiopia, and we had an armed robbery in the middle of the night in our house. I woke up to the dog barking, and we looked out the window, and there was someone holding a handgun at the window. Soon after that, we heard people banging in, breaking in our front door. I got the kids into the bedroom with me, and Jerry left them into the house because we thought it might go better for us. He was taken by gunpoint to the office, which was close to our house, to give them money, and the children and I were put underneath a blanket on top of my bed with a guy guarding us with a machete. Later, Jerry was brought back into the house. After it was all over, and we had called the police who needed to walk to our house on foot because they had no car, we found knives on the counter in the kitchen. Some days, weeks later, Jerry was called to the police station to look at a lineup of men to see if he could pick out who was in our house that night. There were 4 or 5 guys there, 3 or 4 guns, but he could never identify anyone. For me, justice would not have been for one of those men to be imprisoned. For me, justice would have been for those men to have to come to our house, bring their wives and all of their children for coffee. We would have sat in the living room, and I would have told them how for a year to 2 years we would wake up at night. Sometimes I would wake up sharp at 1 o'clock, nothing, no sounds. My heart would be racing. Sometimes a dog would bark and we'd be out of bed, adrenaline just pumping, ready to go. I would have liked to have them hear our story and how it interrupted so many nights' sleep. For me, that would have been justice, to have them hear, but not just them, their wives and their children as well.
When I was going to school in Philadelphia, I volunteered at a soup kitchen called the St. Francis Inn for people experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. And the style of this soup kitchen is that it was like a restaurant where people could come and be waited on and receive a nice meal, which is not an experience that they would have very often. So a lot of the people who visited the soup kitchen brought with them all of their belongings, including other food items that they had collected from shelters or other sources. And what was amazing to me was how quick they were to share with each other the food that they had brought with them, in addition to the meal that we were serving them, so that if somebody brought along a loaf of bread and they opened it up for themselves, they were quick to offer bread to everybody around them to go with the soup. Seeing people who just were experiencing so much poverty and so much food insecurity share what little they had with those around them, and so selflessly, it really showed me what justice looks like when we are willing to share with others what we have, even at a risk to ourselves, when we can afford to be selfless with others.
I have a story of justice from the hospital. I had a young lady that was patient, like 25 years old. She had a history of some cancer and bowel surgeries. She had come into the hospital to have surgery done, and she was in a lot of pain. So for about 24 hours, she wasn't getting the adequate pain medication that she needed. And by the time I came on, it had been almost 24 hours that she hadn't had pain medication that was adequate for her. And she was in a lot of pain, and I called the surgeon about 5 times, and he kept telling me to give these low doses of pain medication. She was a young Hispanic woman, and he just figured she had a history of some drug abuse and there was some racial profiling involved. But as a nurse, I knew that she also had a history of cancer and was used to getting morphine. And so finally, it took her saying, she and her boyfriend were pretty upset, and she was crying because she was just so frustrated. And it took her to say, we want a different surgeon, and they fired him, and I had to be the one to call him and tell him. But it's kind of a mixed effort from the two of us to get what she needed, and eventually he did order the stronger pain medication, and she was totally fine and recovered within a week or two, and had a great recovery after that.